Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Daily Summation. Today is the 30th of September 2020. I am Kurt, and this is the Daily Summation for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Welcome aboard. Today we're going to talk about a concept that I think a lot of people have a bit of a hard time with, and that is the concept of negative rights. Now, I wanted to sort of start the discussion by pointing out that most people are aware that there are a couple of documents that are the primary documents for the foundation of the United States. They are the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Now, the interesting thing about the Declaration of Independence is, though its primary purpose was to say this is why the United States is becoming its own entity, it also has a place in which it discusses what amount to positive rights for citizens. And that place, it talks about three positive rights. And those three positive rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Everybody has heard these expressions, and they know very well that they exist, right? Many may or may not be aware that they're in the Declaration, but that's where they are. Okay, now, the Constitution. The first question you have to ask yourself is, what was the purpose primarily of the Constitution? And the answer to that is to talk about the form of United States government. That's really what it was about. If you look at the Constitution itself, it lays out how the government is to operate and how it's to be constituted, how it's going to be constructed, right? Yet, at the end of the Constitution and the amendments to the Constitution, there is sorry, I seem to be getting camera shake here and I'm trying to avoid that. There is a place where rights are discussed. But here's the interesting thing. The rights that are discussed are what are typically termed negative rights. Why are they termed negative rights? Well, it's because the rights in question are not rights for the people. You're going, wait, what? What do you mean they're not rights for the people? Well, technically they are, but they're really not. Let me explain what I mean by that. The first of the rights in the Bill of Rights, right, is the right to the freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, etc. And in that document, the way that's started, that particular right starts to be expressed is, Congress shall make no law. The point of this is, it isn't about the right to freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion that the thing talks. It's about the fact that Congress doesn't have the right, the United States Congress does not have the right to make laws with regard to these things. And so it's actually a negative right saying, Congress, you can't do this. The same thing applies to the Second Amendment, okay? There are people out there who keep talking about things like, we're going to ban assault rifles, we're going to ban magazines with greater capacity than X, right, for storage of ammunition that's readily available to a weapon. Well, the problem is that the Second Amendment takes care of that. It says that Congress has no right, it says actually that nobody has any right to deprive anybody of their God-given ability to bear arms, to keep and bear arms. And the thing is, it's even more stringent, I think, than the First Amendment in that at the end it says particularly the right shall not be infringed. It doesn't even say Congress can't infringe it. It says this right, this thing cannot be infringed. And again, the point here is that the idea of the negative right is that that the people in question cannot take that right away. They cannot make that right go away by saying, okay, we're going to write laws, which really leads you to wonder how it is in the modern day we have people who are passing various kinds of bans on various kinds of armaments. Because the whole point of that Second Amendment was to make it so that they had no right to do that. But the point of all of this is that Second Amendment right is a negative right. And this is true if you go down the list of the rights in the Bill of Rights. What's actually being said in every case is not the people have the right. What's actually being said is the government and others who might choose to do so do not have the right to infringe or to step on the people's right, the people's authority to do various things. So can you write inflammatory columns in a press article? You absolutely can. Should the government have any way to restrict you from doing that? Absolutely not. Can you walk down the street in your Nazi regalia? The answer is, so long as you're not disturbing the peace, you absolutely can. So long as people aren't going to come out and it isn't going to incite a riot or whatever, you absolutely can. There's even an argument for the idea you can shout fire in a movie theater or whatever. But, and this is the important part, what the Bill of Rights says, what the Constitution in its discussion of rights says, isn't you have this or this or this or that right. Okay? What it says is people don't have the right to take these fundamental things from you. That's what it actually says. This is an important consideration, right? I had more that I said in my blog post on this, and I'm kind of trying to dredge up in my mind exactly what it was that I said. But basically the idea is, the government can't say, we are going to take away from you the right to do this thing because the Constitution, oh yes, that was one of the things that I was intending to say, but let me finish this thought first, because the Constitution specifically says that you can't do that. Now, when the Bill of Rights was created, many people may or may not be aware that there were folks who were saying, yeah, let's create this Bill of Rights, and there were other people who were saying, no, we don't need to do that. To begin with, the Constitution says specifically, if it's not addressed as a power of government in this document, government doesn't have that power. And that means the idea is that the whole document is based on the premise of sort of negative rights, right? So that was a problem for the people who didn't agree with the concept of adding the Bill of Rights. And they also, and this is the other part, and this is kind of unfortunate, right, is they also believed that there were other rights that probably should have been included in the list potentially, and that those rights were not, didn't get included and probably wouldn't have been generally supported if they had. And so now you've got people who are saying, well, it's not in the Bill of Rights, so you really don't have a right to that. Well, that's not correct. Just because it's not in the Bill of Rights doesn't mean you don't have a right for the government not to affect you in that way. In fact, as I say, because the basic tenor of the Constitution itself is to say that the government doesn't have rights to anything that's not in this document, the federal government, assuming that because it's not in the Bill of Rights, or anybody assuming that because it's not in the Bill of Rights, we're not going to assume that you have that right, that's a ridiculous thing, because that's really what the Constitution says by and large, right? If the right of the government to take these things from the people, anything not expressly considered in the Constitution essentially is left to the discretion of the various states and the people, the sundry states and the people sort of thing. So, so the idea that it's not in the Bill of Rights, it was a problematic one for the guys who finally assented to the idea that there should be a Bill of Rights. And you can argue that the reason that they did that is because the things that they actually included in the Bill of Rights were considered very fundamental things to American society, things that really, really wanted protected. But with the express idea that wasn't intended to say there's absolutely nothing else that could be included in this list. Again, if you consider that the Constitution was actually written in such a way that it made it so that anything not expressed within it as a right of the federal government was actually either state or individual right. Okay, I'm out of time, and I just wanted to go ahead and sort of sum up. The concept of negative rights is things where is a series of statements where people are told, hands off, don't touch these, they don't belong to you, you can't mess with them. Okay, so hopefully I've given you a good idea about the concept of negative rights, and because it's getting on for about 10 minutes of time here, I just wanted to wish you a good day, and I wanted to hope that the rest of your week goes well as well. Hopefully we will see you again on Thursday. That is tomorrow. You have an excellent day. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more content from me of various kinds, you can go a number of places. One of those places is my blog, which is blogs.kpschubert.com. I have a Twitter, a Parler, and a Minds.com account, and my handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That is @kpschubert. You can also see my Facebook page, which is Kurt's Religion and Politics. I also have a YouTube account and a Rumble account, and have a channel on each of those. Again, it's the Kurt's Religion and Politics channel. And finally, if you want to support me, you can go to Patreon, and you can find me under Kurt's Religion and Politics there as well. Thanks again for watching this video, and have a wonderful day.